Hey friends, welcome. Hey, can I speak to you little openly and candidly on this podcast? My name is Sat. I'm a business owner of a real estate and a mortgage company in Abbotsford. One of the things I love doing with clients is to have a genuine open conversations and share a little bit about mindset, some thoughts and ideas that help them in their journey. So I have some questions to ask you. First one is, have you ever experienced the pain of missing an opportunity? Did you know that the number one reason people miss those opportunities is because they are not prepared or able to take opportunities when they show up? In other words, there is no lack of opportunities. It's just that when they show up, most people are not in position to take advantage of them. If I was to be super candid and ask you, how have you taken advantage of opportunities in real estate and mortgage world so far? Have you been able to do what you thought you would be able to do, or something you'd be satisfied with? Or you are like most people who would love to do something more than what they have done already? Here is another question for you. Did you know that real estate goes in cycles? When it was up, it went down. Now it is down. It's starting to go up again, and it'll go up again, and then it'll come down again. It always goes in cycles. Your ability to recognize the cycle and prepare ahead of the cycle can give you a great leverage over most other people. Now, if you currently own a home, did you know there are certain opportunities that exist for you or that may exist for you that are not available to other people? See, the reason I'm talking about these questions with you, because I myself have experienced that pain of missing out on opportunities because I didn't think on things like this when I was not in the real estate world myself. Many times I wanted to take advantage and wanted to get ahead on my deals that I was doing in real estate. Of course, that's everyone's goal in a way, but I just didn't know how to. I always thought that people who would work for me, like realtors, mortgage brokers, they will help me get ahead and they will do things that would kind of put me in better positions. And I found out that 80-90% of the industry professionals, while they're great, awesome people, great intentions, good hearted people, a lot of them I liked and they served me well in many years, but they don't necessarily have the business thinking behind the real estate world. They don't have the mindset behind it. They don't have the connectivity or the network behind them to help me excel in real estate world. Therefore, they were looking for the best opportunities out of where I was looking for the best opportunities, which were more or less in average everyday market. Now, why was I looking there? And why does everyone else looks there? Well, when I think on that question, the only kind of answer that comes to mind, because that's how we have grown up. I know for myself, and maybe you can relate to this, maybe not. I grew up in an average, everyday, common family. Mom and dad had a home, but that was back in India. When we moved out to Canada, while we had some good support, maybe a little bit of financial edge in a way, we didn't have to struggle through our childhood as much maybe our parents might have. But at the end of the day, in terms of kind of building our wealth, building our real estate, we had to start pretty much from the same basic beginnings like everybody else does. My wife and I, we had a couple of jobs. She had a job, I had a job. We were working hard at our professions. We had two kids who are now teenagers, and we had my dad and we had her set of parents. So we had three parents, two teenager kids, both having job, trying to look after everything that we can, the things that are important in our lives, and trying to get ahead real estate wise. Now, those of you who live these type of lifestyles where they are kind of families, working class, trying to raise families, you all know how tricky it is to just get ahead, right? You get maxed out on your mortgages, you get maxed out in the properties you own, you want to have a little bit of life. You hear about all these stories of other people doing exceptionally well. So and so bought a house and made $200,000 in 6 months, etc. You try to take advantage of that, and sometimes you hit the jackpot and you make some money, but more times than not, you don't. And sometimes you do have opportunities on hand that you wish you could take advantage of, but you're tied into other areas like your kids, your mortgages, etc., that even the opportunities exist, you just can't take advantage of it. So we saw those struggles were very real. And today, the challenges we had, the frustrations we felt back then, have become our greatest strength because it allows me to understand the struggles that everyday family, common man, common woman, common family has. It allows me to understand the resources that most people have. It also allows me to kind of see how can we optimize and maximize their resource and their opportunities. And what I found after coming into the real estate world is that it wasn't that there was lack of resources that kept me back from succeeding at the level I wanted to succeed in real estate world, even when I was having everyday normal jobs, so to speak. But it was more so how I thought about things and what I knew about things. Coming into real estate world, when I started connecting with some of the most prolific minds of real estate, people who have done exceptionally well, and I sitting down with them over a cup of coffee or lunch or asking them some questions, what I realized is that the principles and ideas that they apply in their real estate deals to get ahead were available to me as well, even when I was working hard, because these principles and ideas don't necessarily cost more money. It's just a different way of doing things, different thinking skill, which costs you no more money, no more resources. It's just the way they think helps them get ahead in their deals. And because I didn't have the thinking or the ideas or the thought patterns they had, that's what limited me more than the money I had or didn't have, or properties I had or didn't have. That was the greatest revelation for me, and it kind of freed me up. And I learned that there are basic principles in all sort of business that happens out there, and which is universal all over the world, applied by hundreds and thousands of people. And every once someone applies those principles, they work like charm. They're like law of gravity. They work irrespective of the person. It's just that most common people, most everyday people, just like myself, either don't know, never been taught. They try to go through these seminars, they try to go to these so-called professionals who are going to teach them real estate secrets, and they pay $4,000 or $5,000 to take those courses, and they come back with some task-related tips and ideas, half of which they can't apply, and it end up being another waste of time, waste of money. So when we came to real estate, one of the things I decided with my new gain knowledge was that, okay, well, this is gonna help me excel at my job, excel at my career, and be the best, be among the best in my profession. But at the same time, it's gonna allow me to help a lot of families. So today I take great pride in sharing some of these concepts with my clients, and I also put them out on podcasts like this for the benefit of general public. One of such principles is people who have succeeded and done exceptionally well in real estate. One of the things they fully understand is the people you're going to work with are going to play a big role in your success, failure, or averageness of the project you're about to do. So whenever they go to sell a property or acquire a property or do a mortgage, they really work really hard and be very intentional and go out and pick exceptional people who are exceptional at this type of job. And they don't necessarily hire people for the skills or the tasks. I used to look at people with their tasks, like who have had more experience, who had written more deals, who have done more contracts, because I thought experience matters, or that experience mattered a lot. And to some degree, it does. I'd rather have somebody who had done a couple of deals than not. But picking somebody based on experience was almost a losing game, because if they're not thinking things like profitability, thinking how to get me ahead, thinking on skill of optimization, road mapping, thinkings on idea of two steps ahead, they are not proactive, they don't have network, they cannot open some doors for me to other opportunities. This person could be, hey, 20 years of experience, great for him, but he's not going to allow me to get ahead. Why? Because he has the experience, but doesn't necessarily have what allows me to get ahead. You see, I used to think based on experience alone. And again, I'm not knocking experience. I'm just giving an example. Another way I hired people was who have written more deals, who could write better contracts. I would research people's contracts, see who had written better contracts, thinking that that will help me get a little ahead, right? And everyday people think like that. Well, what I really needed to understand, I don't need somebody who could write an impeccable contract. I needed somebody who had great negotiation skills, somebody who could have great salesmanship, so that when I was selling a property or buying a property, I could have the benefit of again ideas and thoughts that's going to help me get ahead in that. And what I later realized, that people who did exceptionally well, they hired people based on their thinking and their skill set of ideas and networks that would help these people get ahead, not necessarily based on the experience, a cool website, if they happen to know them. All that was important, but not near as important as the first one. That's the first thing I learned. That, man, and then I went back and thought, oh, that didn't necessarily needed more money. They just need a little bit of upgrading and thinking. Because when you think about it, they're absolutely right. People who are well connected, moving forward, on top of their game, well educated, connected to better opportunities, know how to negotiate well, know how to put together a great deal well, will always bring more benefit to the deal than somebody who happen to know how to fill the contract really well or list a property really well, but doesn't necessarily have everything else that goes into getting me ahead. So that's first principle that I'd encourage you to think on as well. When you gonna do your next deal, who are you gonna bring on board to help you? Remember, whoever you bring on board could either add to your deal or will take away from that deal, because we've seen that happen as well. If that person is not fully on their game, they could actually hurt you financially. Or in some cases, they would pretty much be the same average deal, which I've done a lot of those in when I was buying and selling real estate as a client. So since I came to real estate, I wanted to make sure that I was taking the struggles, the lessons that I learned there, but I was becoming exceptional in terms of gaining equities and helping people get ahead and putting them in front of more opportunities and helping them maximize what they have in their real estate portfolio, even if they're starting from just a studio apartment, how to help them grow from there. Those are the type of areas I wanted to focus on, and I became exceptionally well at that. And let me tell you the difference. I have not looked back, and because of that, because of the result on that, I became like top 10% in Fraser Valley board and earned the ambassador award and all that. But again, to my point, learning that didn't necessarily take any more money. It was just a mind shift, right? That's one thing that I would encourage you to kind of think on when you're going to do your next property, who you're going to do it with. Next thing I want to encourage you to do is think in terms of profitability. What I found, people who have done exceptionally well in their deals, they don't necessarily think in terms of the deal itself, which I used to think a lot about the deal itself, like as in how much money can I save, if I'm selling, how much money can I charge, etc. Those things are again important to them, but they think a lot more in profitability. They are almost willing to pay $5,000 more in a property that they're buying if they see the profitability scope out of it. As an example, I remember doing a deal for a client who we actually encouraged to pay a little bit more. The seller was at certain price that I kind of found out from a negotiation with their agent that they wanted to be around. We asked our agent, our client, to pay 5 grand more than where seller wanted to be, not to get the property for them because we are in the buyer's market, but pay them 5 grand more, but ask them to do certain things in the house that they were buying. Because we had gone out prior to that in our preparation work and taken quote on how much would it take to get that work done. And the work that was going to get done was around $62,000 different quotes that we received. So we paid seller 5 grand more and asked them to do that work that would have cost my grant roughly about 60 grand to go out and do it. Seller didn't pick every item we listed on that contract, but he picked about $48,000 worth of work that he would get done before the possession. So that was worthwhile paying them 5 grand more, even if seller didn't ask, to go from the back end and get them to agree to all the work they've done. That's an example of a profitability that gets built in the deal. That's just one example. There are many different ways of doing stuff like that, but that's the type of work I'm talking about when I say building a profitability in the deal. So when exceptional people do deals, they look for profitability. Average people do deals, they focus on prices. Which one do you focus on? Profitability or price? Now, if you set price, I'm going to encourage you to change that mindset and start looking for profitability instead of price. Okay. Third concept that I'm going to share with you is always think 2 steps ahead. 2 steps ahead is a simple concept. Again, doesn't take any more money, but allow you to position yourself much better in the marketplace. An example would be we helped a client sell a property in Mission area. They were in a mobile home. Their goal was to sell the mobile home and go into a townhouse. We sat down for a cup of coffee, asked them the same question. Hey, what is your 2 steps ahead idea like? He didn't know what 2-step idea mean, like I didn't know. So I explained to him what this means is that if you were to go 2 steps ahead in your real estate ventures, where would you like to be? And he said, well, 2 steps ahead, I like to go into the townhouse now, and then eventually I want to be in a detached home, and then eventually I want to be in a acreage, 2 or 3 acres somewhere in country or something like that. So, okay, so then your 2 steps idea is your 2-step ahead idea is either a detached or a country acreage in the country, and that was true. Okay, so what will it take? What kind of timeline are we thinking? And he was thinking about 5 years to at least get into another house after selling the mobile home. So, okay, well then if you want to be into a house that early, and what you're describing me, that those type of houses today cost about 1.2 million, which wasn't necessarily a big home, but it was a good average size home. You think in 5 years you'd be in position to get into $1.2 million home if you went into a townhouse today with all the expenses? And that didn't seem pretty promising. So what we did instead, we encouraged this client to get into a detached home at about $900,000 range. Now, originally he thought of that idea, but he wasn't going for it. And the reason he wasn't going for it because bank told him he's only able to qualify for $800,000 mortgage. He couldn't find anything detached for $800,000 that was going to be any good. So he thought a townhouse would be a good idea. So we took his mortgage file, sent it to our office, got it optimized, and now all of a sudden we find that he's not limited to 800,000. He can actually, with proper optimization, he can actually get 949 or so from the bank. And he had a property that he didn't think he could sell because it was out of province. And through our network partners in that province, we got that property sold in time. And he had about $40,000 or so came from that side. So now all of a sudden he was looking at $1 million on his hand. And with that, we were able to get him into a nicely situated property and negotiate well to about 839 or so. 2 years later, We put that property back on the market, and guess what? It had about 147, 148,000 equity in that property. Just for the funds, we did a comparison on the townhouse idea that he was originally looking for. He would have still gained some equity in that, but more like $36,000. Now compare 36,000 to 148,000. That's 112 grand more because we thought two steps ahead. You see, the ideas like those didn't necessarily, again, took more money, didn't necessarily took any different positioning. It was just thinking differently. And where did I got those thinking from? From the people I connected with, people who are doing it. So for the sake of time on this podcast, I wanted to close with this. If some of these things resonate with you, if you feel that you would love to optimize what you've got, you would love to kind of see how you can maximize your opportunities, whether it is on the buying end, selling end, or the mortgage end. And if you are not under contract with anyone yet, and you're still exploring your options and who you're going to do that business through, I'd encourage you to connect with us. Shoot us a message. At this point in time, I don't know your situation. So therefore, it probably is not 100% authentic or real for me to say I can totally help you out. I may not be able to help you out, but what I've seen more often than not, when we sit down with people, get to know their story, get to see what they're trying to do, oftentimes than not, there are ways, ideas, thoughts which they haven't thought about that we can bring to the table that can open some doors for them and can kind of releases some pressures and brings out some more new opportunities. So if you would like to have that type of discussion, to sit down with the understanding that, hey, our relationship and our prospect of working together could be there, may not be, depending on what we can bring to the table and what you're trying to do. But if it works, happen to work for you, and it happened to work for us as a company, maybe we can work together on your deals. Maybe we can put something together where you could come ahead, you could benefit from the type of work we do, and we get to earn a new client and earn a new friend. If you like those type of ideas and you think that would be a possibility, I'd encourage you to consider giving us a quick call, maybe a message. 604-308-6757 is my number. And again, we love to work with people, everyday families who are out there trying to make things happen in real estate. As we help them grow, it helps us grow. So if you'd be open to that, let's do something together. Take care. Bye for now.